welcome, race fans. Man, I'm glad you guys are all here today. I'm so sorry this episode 2 is taking so long. I've been really busy, plus I've been to about 12 races this year. And the thing is, boy, I was at the BC 39 and that Colfoyd. Oh my gosh, what a driver. Anyway, that was a great race. So anyway, I want to make a few clarifications on my last episode. One, I said Vukovic won 3 Indianapolis 500s, and he didn't. He won 2 back-to-back, and he was on the way to win his third one, and he had a great big lead. And Roger Roard, he had a very ill-handling car, and he stacked them up in turn 2 out of turn 2, and Bill went over the top, and he ended up upside down on fire on the outside of the wall, which ended his day. The thing is, if he would have won that race, he'd have been the first ever, even yet today, to ever win 3 Indianapolis 500s back-to-back. And then also, I really butchered the name James Hilton. I can't believe that, but James Hilton was the guy that DW was fighting in that race in 1972. And also, I butchered up P.B. Cornell. P.B. Cornell was the guy that gave Darrell the break to go to Nashville Speedway. And then also, I want to mention that Bobby Allison was a really good friend of Darrell Waltrip's. He built cars for P.B. Cornwell. That's how Darrell got associated with him, and they became good friends, and he did have a big effect on Darrell's career. He taught him how to build cars and such. And then Stevie's dad, I want to mention that. He was the vice president of Texas Gas, and everybody thought Darrell was getting money from his father-in-law to race, and that wasn't true. But her dad did provide a lot of connections, which is as good as cash. And also, I want to recap. I said he bought that car in 1972 from Holman Moody, and he got 2 427 racing engines, parts, rims, tires, and so on that deal. And also, he didn't know that was Mario Andretti's car when he bought it. Jake Elders found that out when he was working on it and seen the serial number and said, "Hey, Darrell, this was Mario Andretti's car." And so I just wanted to cover that. And one other thing, when he bought that car, Harry Hyde closed his doors on his race team. And Harry Hyde, he was a major player in NASCAR, back in 1960. And he was an engine builder and so forth and everything. And he was a major player. And in 1984, Rick Hendricks hired him to be a crew chief, and he became part of the all-star racing team. But the thing is that they didn't see eye to eye and whatever. And Rick bought him out and formed Hendrick Motorsports. Also, I want to touch on one other thing. It's not really that important, but anyway, in the Days of Thunder, the car owner that hired the driver from IndyCar, well, that was a reenactment or whatever you want to call it, what happened when Harry Hyde hired Tim Richmond to drive his car. And that was just a reenactment or whatever you want to call it of that story. So then I want to go back to the 1972 race when Darrell showed up, at Talladega. And, the thing is, Harry Hyde, the point was about Harry Hyde, his crew came to Darrell Waltrip, and they were very experienced, and they had already won a championship with Bobby Isaac in 1970. And they came and worked with Darrell. Darrell was very lucky. He had very talented, good people surrounding him, okay? And the thing is, that team, basically, that race team was a bunch of young guys that are trying to prove themselves and show what they can do. And then there were some big names on that crew, okay? But anyhow, that's the deal on that. But when he showed up to Talladega for his first Cup race, he had a Folgers coffee van that he bought, and his father-in-law found it for him, but he bought it, and he probably had his name on the side and everything else. And then he had a trailer with his car, an open trailer with his car on it, and he shows up to Talladega, and Jake Elders was his crew chief. Then Jake came up and opened up the doors of the van, and he goes, "Hey, where in the hell's the tools?" Well, Darrell goes, "Right there." There was a little toolbox in there. Yeah, a toolbox in there that Darrell bought from Western Auto. Hey, he probably had 2 wrench sets in there and a couple screwdrivers and a hammer and whatever came with the set. And that's all he needed to run the fairgrounds. And Jake goes, "You can't run Talladega with this. We got to have jacks. We got to have jack stands. We got to have tools. We got to have impact wrenches. We got to have air hoses, air tanks." Well, the thing is, back then, vendors showed up to the track and they had all this stuff for sale, and you could buy all this stuff. And so Darrell, I don't know what he bought it with, but he went around and he picked up everything he needed. Now, here's the thing I want to point out. Darrell was a dreamer, and that's how dreamers operate. They don't worry about all the little details. We're going to go run Talladega, and then when we get there, we'll solve the problems when we get there. And that's exactly what he did. And he ran Talladega. Also, the thing is, on that race, Darrell, he didn't have money for tires. And like I told you in the other session, we got the pump running and everything. But anyhow, we got Goodyear bought a bad set of tires, like I said, and Darrell, he didn't have money to buy tires, so they ran slicks. They brought slicks. They brought old used slicks, and Jake Elders went through them and put together sets for the race. Now, when everybody else was pitting for tires and everything, Darrell was still on the racetrack, and that kept him up front. And when he was going down the straightaway, he would say, look up on that pole there with all the positions, and he'd see he was running right up front. And he was leading. He's beating all these guys. And Darrell just knew damn well they were cheating. You know, Jake Elders was known for finding the racer's edge. He was known for it. And Darrell knew they were cheating, had to be cheating like crazy. And when he ran into his first pit stop, you know, he wasn't aware them other guys were stopping for tires. He was just driving his race car. Anyway, he pit stop, and and the guys on his pit crew, there was a bunch of guys from the fairgrounds that just came along to go racing. And they knew how to change a tire, throw some fuel in it and stuff. And anyway, he rolls in there, and of course, Darrell knows they're just damn well they're cheating, you know. And the thing is, and they told him to go, and he takes off out of the pits, and everybody's pointing at him. I mean, up down pit row, everybody's pointing at him. Oh my God, this is my first chance in the Cup Series, and the whole place knows we're cheating. You know, they're pointing at me. Well, that wasn't the case at all. They forgot to pull the jack out from underneath it, and he's dragging the jack down the pit row. Well, it really pissed Darrell off. He paid $200 for that jack, and he just ruined it. So anyway, you know, really, and thank God his engine blew, because if he had won that race, he'd have been totally out of control. He'd have been getting on that microphone going, "Hey, Richard Petty and all you guys and Buddy Baker, you guys think you're hot stuff. I'm some kid here, rookie, and I just beat all you guys." Yeah, you can imagine. It'd have been. Luckily, he didn't win the race. Even Darrell said that. So anyway, that covers that race. So let's get to, when in 1972, he ran 6 races that year. In 1973, he ran 5 races for Bud Moore. Bud Moore was another major player in the NASCAR back then. Bud Moore Engineering, I'm pretty sure was the name of it. And he was, deep into it. And Bud Moore had hired Bobby Isaac when Hyde closed his doors. And Isaac, he goes out of race, and he's out there, and he pulls in the pits, and he climbs out of the car, and he goes, "I ain't driving that thing. I'm hearing voices out there. I'm done, man. I am done racing, man. I'm hearing voices out there." So Bud Moore needed a driver. So he said, well, that kid, he's been running pretty good, and we'll just throw him in the car. So he signed him up for 5 races. So he ran 5 races for Bud Moore in 1973 and replaced Bobby Isaac. And then he ran 14 races all told in 1973. He ran 16 races in 1974. In 1975, he ran 17 races and won the Nashville Fairgrounds, his first Cup victory. And boy, he was proud. He was really proud because that was his team, his stuff, his equipment, and it was his deal. And he just beat the best. And it was a big deal. So in 1976, Bill Gardner, he was in the racing business, and he owned Guard, and really, he didn't he really didn't understand. He didn't really understand the racing business, and but anyway, every week, Darrell's beating his driver, and heck. Bill Gardner, he's got Gatorade, or no, I'm sorry, Guard, and everything. He's got the money, and he's pumping money in. And this kid from the fairgrounds beating him every week. And then at Daytona, Darrell passed him on the last lap, passed his driver on the last lap. I can't find out who his driver was. I could, but I don't want to, whatever. Anyway, he passed him anyhow, and on the last lap. And Bill Gardner was livid. Oh, my God. This kid, this ragtag team, a bunch of, whatever, low budget and everything else is beating me every week. So he fired the driver on the spot. And then he told Jim Gardner, he goes, who ran the team, his brother, he goes, hire that kid. I want to put him in the car. So anyway, after the race was over, Stevie and Darrell, they went down to her dad's house, and they cooked out or whatever, spent the evening, whatever. But anyway, he come back through Daytona to the pay window, pick up the money, so he could pay all of his bills. And they said, "Hey, Jim Gardner's looking for you." And Darrell goes, "Well, what the heck's he looking for me for?" "Well, he wants you to drive his car. Oh, Darrell said, "Oh, my God. You got to be kidding me. I ain't going to drive that shit box. I'm beating that guy every week. My God. They want me to drive his car?" So he gets in his van, and he goes on down the road, and he's heading home. He stops at a gas station, put gas in, and he's putting gas in, and Jim Gardner walks up. He says, "Hey, I've been looking for you." Darrell goes, "Well, yeah, I've been hearing about that. I don't know." Yeah. Now, I don't know exactly what was said there, but I'm sure Darrell told him he wasn't going to drive that shit box. What the hell? And and so he gets into the van, and, head on home, and Stevie goes, "Well, what's that all about?" Darrell says, that Jim Gardner, they want me to drive their car. They want to put me in his car. I ain't going to drive that shit box. Furthermore, he said, all these guys are counting on me. And we're doing good. And we want to race at Nashville. And heck, we're on our way. And they're dependent on me. And Stevie goes, "Hey," he says, you have to take a ride in that car. You have to take that ride. We got bills. You have any idea how deep in debt we are? We are knee deep, and you can drive that car. We can pay these bills. So Darrell gets a hold of Bill, and they cut a deal. But here's the thing: Bill's whole team's under contract. Everybody's under a contract. So Darrell had to sign the contract. See, and that was unheard of back then. Darrell thought it was nuts. What the heck? I said, you just make agreements. That's how this thing works. So anyway, he signed a contract, and in the meantime, while this was all kind of going on, Bill Stokely Gatorade. Now I don't know exactly what he was in Gatorade, whether he owned it or a vice president or whatever. Anyway, he was good friends of Stevie's dad. And the thing is Stokely, he sponsored Johnny Rutherford's car in the Indianapolis 500. And Bill showed up to the track, to Indy, and they said, "Hey, you don't have the proper credentials. You can't get in here." So he couldn't get in there to watch his own car run. And who guess God only knows how much money he had invested in that sponsorship, and he couldn't even see his own car race. He's telling Stevie's dad this story. Him and Stevie's dad went to school together. Okay, and Stevie's dad goes, "Well, you need to go to NASCAR. They ain't going to treat you like that. They ain't going to treat you like that at all. You need to go to NASCAR." And so, in a roundabout way, he hooked Darrell up with Bill Stokely. And Darrell went to Indianapolis to Bill's office and Gatorade there. And boy, Darrell seen right away, oh, this is a big deal, buddy. And anyway, Darrell made an agreement. Gatorade was going to sponsor him. So now he's got Guard and Gatorade. Now he's got a lot, he's got good sponsorship behind him. Furthermore, Darrell cut a deal on his late model. I'm going to call it a late model. I don't know what they really called it back then, but it's late model. He ran in the late model. And so to sponsor his late model. And the guy that worked on Darrell's car was Robert G. Robert G. That's Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s grandfather. Robert G. What a character Robert G. was. I'm telling you what, this guy lived on Crown Royal and steaks. And he worked all night and slept all day, and he could care less, and he just was a character, And he played a major role. He built cars for Dale Sr. and so forth and other places. And, of course, he was building this car for Dale Jr. Dale Jr., Darrell Waltrip. And Jake Elder's the one that hooked them all up together. Jake Elders knew everybody. Jake Elders, he was he started out as a fabricator in 1960 for Richard Petty Enterprises, and then he worked for everybody and their brother, and he was really independent. And he was quite a guy. He was an old school. Rusty Wallace said he was an old school, from the old school, buddy. He'd tell the driver, "Hey, I fixed the damn thing. You learn how to drive it." He was tough. Anyway, Robert G., this car, this late model, they had it set up so low that the tires were higher than the engine. Oh my gosh. So anyway, what old Robert G. did, he went down junkyard and he got some Volkswagen fenders and he put them in the body. And he had Volkswagen fenders on that car. Robert G. was a genius. He could do anything. And anyway, that's a story about Robert G. Man, I have ate up so much time. But the thing is, we'll just let it go at that. Our next episode, we're going to talk about this contract deal with Bill Gardner. It really caused a lot of problems and other things. And we're going to go on down the road with Darrell Waltrip's career, which I think is fantastic. It's a very fascinating story and all the people that are involved. But anyhow, I got to go. And my motto. You see somebody going down the street, say hi, how you doing? And boy, that's a nice dress you got on there, la-di-da-di-da, make somebody's day, just make somebody's day.